Cordisco back again with another great chess video for you. This is a game that was played today, April 29th, 2013. This is from the Runova Group Grand Prix 2013. That's the series of tournaments leading up to the next World Championship Challenger. This is from round 10. It's between Mamedyarov as white and Nakamura as black. Currently, Nakamura is number 7 in the world. He's slowly creeping up, and I don't think he gets enough international press, or basically any press in the United States. He probably gets more in Europe, sadly enough. But anyway, an interesting game. It's a short game. It's a Slav defense. Nakamura has black and Mamedyarov has white. We'll start here with d4, d5, c4, and c6. That's your typical Slav. You could always go e6 instead and then knight to c3. After c6, white went knight c3, d takes, e3. Now I was surprised at this move here. Carl went b5, and I put that arrow in there to show this protecting the c pawn, and the queen gets to come out here as well. Interesting move. We'll see how it works out. White, of course, went a4, and you go b4 immediately. Knight at c to e2. Interesting thought might have been knight to b1 for Mamedyarov, and the knight to f6. Bishop takes, bishop to e7. I've got the computer on off screen so you can't see, because I like people to try to figure out and analyze the moves as we go along, or pause the video and try to analyze the moves. It's about maybe a quarter of a pawn advantage for white at this point. After knight on c to e2, knight to f6. Now there were several alternatives. One of them was bishop to a6, and I kind of like that. And the sequence would go knight to f3, knight to f6, bishop to d2. After Carl went knight to f6, Mamedyarov went knight to f3, bishop to a6. In a way, it forces this knight to move here. As you'll see, the knight goes to g3, because we all see what happens there. If that knight doesn't move, this pawn is going to come up here, and in a way it kind of pins that knight, because after bishop takes bishop, white won't be able to castle on the king side. Knight to g3, of course, stopping that, and c5. They're just developing now, bishop to d2 and e6. I'm looking at the position here. It doesn't look too bad. It's about a half a point advantage for black. This early on, if you're a pawn ahead and you're only half a pawn ahead in score, your position isn't so hot. I'm sure Hikaru had some kind of preparation for this that we're just not seeing yet, so we'll have to find out how it works out. Rook to c1, going right after the pawn immediately. Queen to d5, protecting the pawn. And knight to e5. Now it's funny the computer did this. It gives you an idea. It looks like every single piece on the board is hitting the c4 square, but it gives you an idea. 1, 2, 3 white pieces and 2 black pieces are defending that square. So might give you a hint that the c4 square is an important square. Instead of knight to e5, d takes might have been something to consider. And then, of course, Carl would develop his knight. Bishop takes, knight takes, queen takes, pawn takes, bishop to e3 might have been a viable alternative. After knight to e5, c takes, d4, knight takes. Now, to tell you the truth here, I probably would have taken that knight. It was probably been a bad move. But I think the move I would have taken instead was maybe, pawn here. I thought it was an interesting alternative. The computer, of course, doesn't give that move at all. This is just an amateur's version of. I just like that pawn on the 6th ranked. It ties him up a lot. But that's why these guys are world-class players and I'm not. Bishop on D to D7. Bishop to E2. Rook to C8. Carl still isn't castled yet, which I'm really surprised. Bishop to F3, hitting the queen. We can all see why he moved his rook here now. Because if this rook was here, they would have lost the exchange. Queen to C5. E3. Just putting a pawn to reinforce his posted knight on C4. And bishop to E7. So I think this will be a good time here to take a break and, as I say kiddingly, a message from our sponsor.
They have better movie tonight, huh?
Wow, what's that aftershave you're wearing?
You high karate aftershave is so powerful, it drives women right out of their minds. That's why we have to put instructions on self-defense in every package. High karate, the brisk splash-on aftershave that smooths and soothes and cools. High karate, aftershave, cologne, and gift sets. High karate, be careful how you use.
Okay, folks, we're back. We hope you enjoyed my little commercial spoof there. It's funny, I'd mentioned bishop takes c4, bishop takes a knight for black, and the computer shows what would happen. It says bishop takes c4 double question mark. So that's maybe why those guys are playing there and I'm here. Because after bishop takes c4, rook takes, queen takes, pawn takes. Very bad. Anyway, maybe that's why they're playing there and I'm here. After bishop to e7, knight to e2. Now an interesting alternative instead of knight to e2 was castles for white and then d3 for black, move that I wanted. Interesting though, bishop takes c4, still loses. Bishop takes, rook takes, queen takes, pawn takes. It's still bad for white. Knight to e2, d3, move that I wanted before. And now it's an interesting position here. White moves knight to f4, which I think is a good move. White doesn't have a really good hold on the center. I mean, this e3 pawn is guarding some squares, but I think this centralized knight and this centralized knight here, they're not duplicating each other's squares, which is good. And also, they're covering a lot of territory in this general area right here. And they're playing a defensive role if they have to as well. Knights do that best. They're great defensive pieces, and they can be great controlling square pieces. Black castles. And again, bishop takes c4 would seal black's doom. Knight takes d3, queen to f5. Now obviously Carl knew that pawn was doomed and he was going to wait for the right time to give it back, and that seemed to be the right time. Now the problem is, this is where I think Mamedyarov goes bad. The two suggested moves are bishop takes b4 or knight takes b4 here. They're pretty close to the same in score. I probably would take with the bishop to force the trade of the dark squared bishop. Mamedyarov goes e4. Now prior to this, the score was a little less than a pawn advantage for white. After e4, it's almost 2 points. And I think that might have been his #1 error here as we go along. And the game isn't too much longer than this, believe it or not. I think he just got fed up and just threw in the towel. Right now it's about a 2.05 advantage for black, I should say. Knight takes e4, g4 hitting the queen, queen to d5. And right now it's looking good for black. His position is really good here. Queen to e2, trying to centralize a little bit, trying to cover some squares, cover some of the pieces. F5. I like that move a lot. It's going to open up a lot of things. I think if bishop takes c4 here, it would be a big mistake after pawn takes, queen to a5, queen takes, and that would have cost black severely. After f5, now oddly enough the computer suggests castling, and that's what white does. Now rook takes c4. And this is where, oddly enough, Mamedyarov resigns. I know he's going to have a tough time here. We'll go through the computer suggestions. I don't think it was resignable, but it was close. B takes c4. I think bishop takes would have been better. We're going to look at it here. We're going to play it out a little bit here just to see. Knight takes b4. Bishop takes the queen. Knight takes. E takes d5. And bishop takes. I'll be honest with you. I don't know why he resigned. I think this was somewhat defensible. Maybe just got fed up. Who knows? Maybe he was just short on time. I didn't see the times, but either way, Mamedyarov resigned. And Akaro, with this win, puts him in sole second place in the tournament, just behind by half a point, if I'm not mistaken, former world champion Topalov. So Akaro's sneaking up, and I think he should get some praise for that. Granted, it was some mistakes from his opponent the last 2 or 3 games, but we're not perfect people, and neither are they. They're making mistakes, and Akaro's making mistakes, but he's just making the next to the last mistake and not the last mistake. And so that winds up for this video. This one I also mentioned. This now puts Akaro Nakamura at number 7 in the world. I don't think the kid gets enough credit as he deserves, and I'm going to give him a couple of kudos for that. So that ends this video, folks. Just want you to remember, if you think chess is just a game, you're not playing it right. And I hope everyone comments, and please, please, everyone, please subscribe. I would appreciate it personally. Bye-bye, folks. Take care.
Hey, let's take a minute and meet Clark Kent, of Superman.
Chief, believe me, you're in for a treat just as soon as Jimmy gets back here.
Great Caesar's ghost. What's holding him up? You know I can't work without a good breakfast.
Chief, Jimmy's bringing a box of Kellogg's Sugar Smacks.
All the more reason for hurrying. Confound it, that boy knows I like those new Sugar Smacks.
And he knows I do, too. And that's a cinch.
Well, here I am. Young man, if you spill those new Sugar Smacks, you're fired.
Golly, Chief, I hadn't opened up the box yet. But I'm going to now.
Well, I guess we all agree on Sugar Smacks.
Right.
Folks, don't wait. Get Kellogg's new Sugar Smacks. They're better than ever. Puffs of wheat, sugar toasted, and candy sweet.
You bet. Just get Kellogg's Sugar Smacks, brand new.